Thank you for joining me today, Beth. And you're joining us from Portugal.
Lisbon, Portugal. Thanks for having me. Yes.
Yes, very exciting. So, I'm
hmm
starting a new series, as I mentioned to you, called my Get Out of Dodge series, because so many Americans are moving out of the US. Do you find that?
Yes, we're getting a lot. I work with a global, actually two groups, but my team here in Lisbon, that's all they do is take care of people coming into Portugal. It could be Canada, it could be the US, England, Ireland. That's kind of the main traffic that we get. But yeah, it's very active. I think people are looking for a better lifestyle.
A better lifestyle, absolutely.
Mhm.
That's the
Yeah.
name of the game these days. So, tell me
Yes.
about your background. So, you're a real estate agent. How long have you been an
Mhm.
agent?
I got my license in 2000 in Colorado, in a ski resort town in Winter Park. Yeah, so I lived there for 16 years and sold real estate there. My kids moved away from there, and I decided I was over the snow. So I moved, ended up in California where I had grown up earlier in my life, and then I worked as that's how we met as a real estate agent in California for about 11 years. So,
Fantastic. That's right. We met
yeah.
in California when we were both
Yeah.
at Century 21 briefly. And
hmm
now you're with Keller Williams. And it sounded
hmm
like you started your career in a resort town. So would you
Yes.
say that Lisbon is like a resort town or where you are right
Yeah.
now?
Well, it's definitely more than California. California is very residential. Either they're buying a commercial or they're buying a home. And, my skills in Colorado were definitely second homeowners, condos, lock and leave, anybody that wanted to come up either the summer or the winter. So it was, or rent them out. So you have that. So part of the marketing when it came to selling up there is that you kind of had to know what the average rental is and if it's going to cash flow, which normally doesn't in a resort town because of the seasonality of it. But having that experience helps me here because then I can ask, I know what a lock and leave is, it's just you don't want anybody in there. You don't want to rent it. You want it there when when you can come and it's safe, every time you come to visit and leave. Yeah,
Yeah, lock and
it's,
leave is like a second home.
hmm it is
Okay,
totally.
gotcha.
Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. And it's, so you have kind of different people, inquiring. One of them would be, I want to rent out. I want to do Airbnb. And, so we'd have to find something that suits them. The other side would be I don't want to rent it to anyone, but I want, a two-bedroom condo that, like I said, they can just walk away and not worry about. So
very
low
nice.
maintenance.
Very nice.
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
yourself, you're completely moved to Portugal now?
I am. It's very
Wow.
exciting. Yeah,
Wow. Great.
it's been a process. It's taken me about 5 years, a little, yeah, actually almost six. And but I had decided that California, I wouldn't be able to retire and live comfortably. And so I started researching about 5 years ago of where I wanted to be. And long process, mainly because of my timelines that I was working with. I've heard people just making the decision and then they're there in 6 months type of thing. But I had other steps I wanted to take. But for me, having I checked other countries out. That you've got the top five,
Mhm.
retirement countries. Panama, Costa Rica, Uruguay, Honduras, and then Portugal is kind
Wow.
of the top five. The four for me, living in Southern California, is the humidity there would be too much for me. It's
I
by the
see.
equator. Yeah.
Okay, I
And I
thought you
don't
were
do
going to
humid.
say Italy, France, Great
Mm-mm,
Britain,
mm-mm.
but you didn't
No.
mention any of those places.
No, those are, if you kind of just do a quick Google, that's pretty much what comes up. I think, and also affordability, because
Mm,
France is not hugely affordable. England is very expensive. And for me, it was weather and affordability. And they said that Lisbon or Portugal is similar to Southern California weather. And so that's how I mean, I had to go get a prescription for antibiotics for this head cold I have, and it was €5.
Five
I
euros.
don't €5, which is about $6
And
for
what would
two
that
weeks.
be in California?
30 at least
Wow.
dollars. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Okay, so
that's with
that's
insurance. Yeah. So
interesting.
it's everything. I mean, just everything is so affordable. Like, I can buy off farm to table fruits and vegetables that are just the best you've ever eaten for nothing. And my milk goes forever and it's 99 cents. I don't know how they say it in euros, but it's not even a €1, to buy
Right.
milk. And, so for me, I wanted something that I could, afford to live in. So
Yeah,
that's kind of where,
absolutely. Yeah, you
yeah.
want to enjoy life and have enough
Mhm.
disposable income to enjoy life.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
it seems like that's the biggest motivator for many people.
It is. And then the other side of it is I have always wanted to really explore Europe. And now I can affordably. Like, I have friends in Zurich. For €30, I can fly to Zurich,
Oh,
for
wow.
everything's very inexpensive here, plus accessible.
Accessible.
Coming from California, that's a 12-hour flight plus your trip. So it's not, you can't really explore it like you would if you're in Europe. So I'm really looking forward to that
That's
side
very
of
nice. Yeah, very
it.
exciting chapter in life to
Yes.
move to a different country and have that option. Now, was it
Mhm.
difficult for you to kind of assimilate or meet people in a new country that has a different language?
Oh, the language is interesting. They always say it's one of the hardest languages to learn, but I'm starting to hear it. Like, used to sound like one long sound, but now I'm hearing, individual words in it.
Mm,
And so, that is a process that I'm going to get through. But most everyone, if you're in the cities, they speak English. Most of them do. If not, Google Translate's a great tool. They will even pull it out
mm.
and ask me what I'm asking. So, they're used to that. The other side of it is meeting people. I've lived here like at 2 months at a time in different areas throughout Portugal to see where I wanted to live. And I've always made friends every time.
Oh,
And, they could be expats, they can be locals. People just start talking to you. And like last weekend or weekend before, we went to the St. Patrick's Day parade here in Lisbon, and we're having dinner, and this couple next to my girlfriend and I were just yakking, and we look over and they say hi, and now we're doing things together. So
wonderful.
everybody's very open and friendly. And even the Portuguese people, obviously, like when I was at the grocery store today, he was trying to say 11 cents, basically. And I finally looked at the screen, showed me the screen. He's 11. I said, once. Oh yeah, yeah, once, because I know that from Spanish. And I
Hmm.
said, is that right? And he said, sí, or yes. And so he was kind of embarrassed, but I'm like, no, it's me learning, not you.
Right, right. Wow.
So,
So it
yeah,
seems like a multicultural place because if they're having St.
very much so.
Patrick's Day parades and you
Hmm.
have English speakers and people trying to learn your language and you trying to learn their language,
Yes.
sounds very nice. Yeah,
It
that's
is. And
great.
I think that's the best part. And you can actually see it from the restaurants. You've got Indian, and these are Indian people cooking the food, Chinese people cooking the
Mm,
food. You've got kebabs and, as well as the Portuguese food. And it's the pasta, the Italian is just incredible here. So you can
wonderful.
see that. And they all live here, so it is a
Oh, great.
very international community for sure. Yeah.
Very good. Tell me a little bit about the real estate that's available.
It matters where you want to be. I think the first step would be to really come and check the country out. But there's basically everybody's heard of the Algarve, which is the southern coast. It's on the Mediterranean area, and it's very beautiful, very touristy, but it's the hottest area because it's farther south. Then you go into a little farther north, and it's a very expensive area of real estate, 5 to 10 million. And
Mm,
then Lisbon, I see there's condos that are around 2 bedroom condos for 250,000 US, up
hmm.
to whatever you want to pay. Now, if you go inland, you can buy a whole house for 200,000, or 400. So it really varies as to what area you're in. There's also the Silver Coast. That's where I lived for 2 months, and condos about the same, if not a little bit less. It's not, hugely populated yet, with the markets strong, but it's what I would call affordable real estate.
Right.
And then you go to Porto, and then the farther north you go, the more affordable it is as well. So, but it's very active. There's a lot of real estate out there. It's just trying to, kind of trying to figure out where you want to live, what you want for your lifestyle, which is kind of fun. Like I want
Hmm.
to be by the beach. I need the water, or I want to be in the mountains so I can hike. And I don't want to do anything, but I want to look at the beach. So it's something where you can actually recreate your world with that. But the real estate's very active.
Oh, very good.
Lots going on. Yeah, yeah.
Excellent. So people have the option to move to Portugal and buy a place. Do they have the
Mhm,
option to be like a foreign buyer and not actually
mhm.
move to Portugal, but still purchase a place for, like you said, a second home?
Absolutely. Yeah, and and there's some different visas you can apply for, but if you stay under 180 days, I think, and then you don't pay taxes, so you can go back and forth. A lot of people I've met recently, they live in Canada and they come out for 180 days. They go back
Hmm.
to Canada, then they come back. And so it keeps it separate, but they tend to, the ones I was talking to were renting, but there are some that own.
Right.
And so they can rent it out when they're not here or just leave, keep it.
What a
Yeah,
great option, because
it
if you
is.
live in a place that's kind of snowy and cold for most of the
Mhm.
winter, you can go to Portugal and do your European excursions from there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the good news is, especially out of LA, TAP Air Portugal now has nonstop flights from LAX to Lisbon.
Hmm.
So
Okay.
that started last May. So it makes it very easy to access.
Is
There's
that a
not.
Portuguese airline?
Yep.
Oh,
Air
okay. What's it
Portugal.
called?
Yeah. TAP. Well, I call it TAP. It's TAP. Air
Uh-huh.
Portugal. And
Oh,
I'm
Air
trying to
Portugal.
remember. Yeah. So they've been around a long time. Very good airline. Very affordable. You can. I've seen airfares nonstop around $450 each way.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's still obviously peak times it goes up, but I was always what they call a shoulder season traveler.
Hmm.
So I'd go in the spring or the fall.
Yeah,
So
that's
that's
the
when,
best. Like
yeah, it is.
March or
Yeah,
October, that time. Okay.
exactly. Yeah,
So
so
would you
it's
say the first step somebody could do is take a trip to Portugal,
mhm, yeah,
maybe choose these shoulder seasons before it becomes peak season, and really
yes,
take the
because
time to explore.
I think so. Yeah, because Portugal in August is their summer month, and all the Portuguese are on vacation. So,
Hmm.
and they stay here pretty much, so they go to their homes that they bought and they stay there for the month. So I would not recommend August,
Hmm.
but the but yeah, no, it's a easy way to get around. I have some friends coming out in July. They're looking at moving here, and what I recommended for them to do is to fly into Porto, rent a car, and then kind of zigzag their way down to the Algarve, which is what they're looking at. And then that way they can kind of see the other areas with, and spend a few days here, a few days there. Portugal's so small that you can easily do it and really get a good taste of everywhere you want to be. So, so now they're kind of leaning towards Algarve with all the research they're doing, but at the same time, it's very easy. And so what they're doing is they're going down one way and they're flying out of Faro, which is the international airport in the Algarve. and then
Oh,
going back to
very
Miami.
nice. Yes,
You
and you
can do
can
it that way.
explore the country kind of in a week or two. You said it's kind of
Yes,
small
easy.
enough to do that. Okay,
Yes. Yeah,
terrific.
because even from Porto to Lisbon, it's a 3 hour drive. And then, so
Okay.
yeah. So even if you go all the way to the north of Portugal, which is
Mhm.
on the border of Spain, um, you go there, it's 4 hours to Porto, three to Lisbon, and two to the end. So you could do it in one day if you wanted. Like us
Wonderful.
Americans, we do 12-hour drives, type of thing. But
Oh, yes.
yeah, and the
Yeah.
highways are great,
Uh-huh.
easy to rent cars. They're all brand new highways. Transportation here is really good. So
It's great.
it's
That's great.
yeah,
Or you
yeah.
can
Now
just take trains,
selling
I'm
for
sure, right?
yeah, the trains are good. I would recommend it's unless you're really adventurous and you have heaps of time, there
Hmm.
it's kind of confusing
Mm.
at first. But the bus system is good too. I tend to do either buses or train. I like the train because I can get up and walk around a little
Yeah, that's
bit.
right. Yeah, and you don't have to
Yeah.
drive. So
Mm-mm.
on a previous conversation we had that kind of, I was really surprised. You mentioned something about you can buy like a four-bedroom house for about
Mhm.
$400,000.
Yes, I think I sent you a list. That's kind of a little bit inland. These people are these clients of ours are looking for inland properties. And so I zoned in on a few of the really cool little villages, they call them,
Hmm.
and with a lot of history, and found quite a few. Their budget was 500,000.
Hmm.
So I found some really great ones around 480 down to 350.
Wow.
And we're talking some have been renovated, others are almost brand new.
Hmm.
Very open, has land. They wanted to be within walking distance of the village,
Hmm.
but a little setback, so which you can do, it's very doable. So they can go to the corner store and get their groceries and then walk
Wow.
home. And yeah, so it's
So
it's amazing
great.
to
So
see these places.
somebody could think about retirement that way. Would you agree? Like
Hmm.
if they sold their
Oh,
million
absolutely.
dollar house in the US,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
let's say they had a mortgage on that million-dollar house, they could
Hmm.
pay off the mortgage. Let's say they had 400,000 left on their million-dollar
Hmm.
mortgage. They could pay that
Right.
off, net 500,000 US, and then
Hmm.
instead of going out of state to Iowa or Texas or whatever, they could go to Portugal.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
pay cash for it, and
Yep.
and you're done. If they even if they leverage their money, the interest rates here are around 3%. So,
Could an American get
uh-huh.
a loan?
Yeah,
Really?
absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
that's
Yeah.
surprising.
There's a couple of like they require you to get a couple of things like a bank account and what they call their uh, Portuguese social security number to be
Hmm.
able to do it. Now, caveat on that, they they cap loans up to the age of I think 73 or 74. But
Okay.
say somebody wanted to, hang on to some of that cash and get a 10 or 12-year loan at 3%,
Hmm.
for 100,000, it's a very doable situation, but they could easily pay cash for it and leverage their money for 3%. It might be worth
Yeah.
it. So
Where
yeah,
are we getting loans for 3%?
any bank. Yeah, exactly.
Really?
Not in
Oh,
America for
okay.
sure.
Because our
Yeah, any
rates are
bank.
over six
Yeah,
right now. Yeah.
I know. Yeah,
Yeah. So the
yeah.
rates
No, it's.
in Europe are around
Mhm.
3%.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yep.
In- Interesting.
Yeah,
So
I'll
it,
send you some screenshots.
yeah, so it depends on
Mhm.
what somebody's preference is. If they prefer not to have
Exactly.
a mortgage, they could buy all cash for about
Mhm.
400,000 and get a house. They could buy a
Right.
condo for 250,000. These are
Hmm.
all within an hour's drive of Portugal or Lisbon, right?
Yeah, pretty
Uh-huh.
well. The ones I was probably 2 hours,
Two
was the
hours.
ones I was
Okay.
looking at.
Like in a
Yeah, which makes
village.
it closer to Porto, which is a beautiful city as well. So, and you have two international airports within an hour and a half, 2-hour drive. So it's
Amazing.
very, yeah, it's very
Yeah.
doable. I was living, and I actually Ubered from Porto last year down to where I was living, and it was like an hour and a half drive, and it cost me about 80 euros to
Ooh,
drive down there for an hour and a half. And so for me, it was easier because I had a bunch of bags. So I didn't want to schlep them on the bus and, all that kind of
right.
thing. So even, just to get from A to B it can be very simple, if you don't try to complicate it, with a whole bunch of logistics. You can narrow it down a little bit. But to buy real estate here, it's, as long as you have a good down payment, you can get a loan here. They
Hmm.
go through the same process as we do. They do a credit check, though. They check everything. So it's just the same. It's just you get more for your money, that's for sure.
Wonderful. So, as a result
Yes.
of all your experiences and research, it sounds like you
Mhm.
have those resources. If somebody that I
Mhm.
know wants to move to Portugal and wants to get started, you know, attorneys and
We've got the
lenders.
whole thing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really cool because the team I joined, they're all very experienced to start with, but we have attorneys, we've got tax people,
Mm,
banks that we refer to, and it's all through solicitors, attorneys. We don't have title or escrow here, so it's all done that way, and they keep it, very organized, so it works very well.
that's
So
amazing.
yeah, it
Well, thank you
is.
so
It is.
much, Beth.
Of
This is
course, yeah.
fantastic information, and I want our viewers to reach out to you directly if they would like to
Hmm.
do so. So, what's the
Absolutely,
best
I'd
way
love
to
to.
reach you?
Oh, well, the easiest way would be probably my email to start with because I
Hmm.
use WhatsApp and a lot of Americans aren't really familiar with WhatsApp yet. WhatsApp is the number one communication app for Europe and
Mm,
anywhere else in the world, just so you know. And you can contact me on Messenger, but my email would be the best, and it's beth.sands, Sands, at kwportugal.pt or PT. Yeah.
great.
So beth.sands at kwportugal.pt. So
Okay.
that'd
And
be
it's
easiest.
Beth.Sands.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Terrific. Yeah. So
Yeah.
people can find you on Facebook, Messenger. They can find you
Messenger, Facebook,
through me.
Instagram.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is
LinkedIn.
very, yeah, it's a great thing to explore. I think people are
It
thinking
is.
different things, and,
Mhm.
it's always an option to move within California or out of state or potentially out of country.
Exactly. And just to reassure people, it's my goal just to educate to start with until they're sure they want to do it. So we do have a face-to-face interview, and I see what their needs are and how I can help them. And then they, I can kind of help them guide them. You need to talk to these people for tax reasons or these people for that. I'm not the expert, but I do
Right.
know how to connect them. And it's not that scary, once you kind of get the process going. At first it was to me, but now I've
Right.
done it, it's a breeze.
Yes, that's right. And it took you a
Yes.
few years of research, but it was all
Mhm. But to be
productive.
honest with you, from when I made my appointment with the in the States for my visa application, it literally took 10 months and I was living here.
Wow, 10 months.
Yeah.
That's no
Yeah,
time.
I know. So if you
Wonderful.
do want to move it along, you can do it within the year easily. So
Terrific.
yeah.
Good to know. Well, thank you
Yes,
again, Beth. This
of
was
course.
very nice, and
Thanks for
it's always
asking.
good to talk to you. And I'm
Likewise.
sure we'll do it again very soon.
Yes, you have a great day. Talk to you later.
Okay.